Hello, this is Kilvington and welcome to Business Tonic number 2. Let's dive in straight away and get started with this week's subject, which is change. The word change is often associated with the unknown, and that brings up and conjures up uncomfortability. We tend to avoid or resist change and the unknown. An unknown can also be associated with the word fear. However, the opposite of fear is faith. You may not know at the time how you're going to make or adapt to a change, but if you have faith in that it will turn out okay, the chances are it will. And I'm sure you can think of previous times when you thought that something would work out okay, and it did. So if you can then recall that instance as evidence for the next time you face a change or a challenge, you'll create a similar expectation and focus for everything turning out okay, and you'll feel positive about the prospects of that change. Because faith and fear cannot coexist, and so if you focus your attention and your dominant thoughts on faith and that everything works out okay, despite you not knowing at that stage on how, you're more likely to manifest a better and more favourable outcome. In considering our ability to change, when times get tough, we'll do one of two things. We'll either admit defeat and give up, or we'll work harder. But in working harder, in the majority of cases what people do is they do a lot more, they work harder and do more of the same. Now it was Einstein that said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result each time. Now change is a process to transform, for better or in some cases worse. But what we should recognise is that things are changing all the time, but the key point to consider is this. You can create change, you can adapt to change, or you can resist change, but whichever one you choose, change is going to happen anyway, so it's better to make it work for you than against you. There's a super and easy to understand short storybook to help anyone understand the process of change with insights as to how to make it work in your favour, and I'm going to provide details of that book at the end of this video. Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change. So if we can agree that change is and always will be happening around us, and that we won't resist it but accept it, go with it, adapt to it, and even in some cases create it ourselves, we have the opportunity to make it work to our advantage. So where do we begin? There's two things that I'd like you to consider. First of all, the thinking strategies. I'd like you to always be open-minded and receptive to new ideas and thinking. Far too many people are afraid to say these words: I don't know, or can you help me please? Brian Tracy says the only stupid question is the one not asked. If you study successful business owners such as Napoleon Hill, Henry Ford, Steve Jobs, to name a few, you'll learn that it's most important to be curious enough to ask lots of questions and to go outside your own business and industry to find out what's working elsewhere with a view to incorporate it within your own business, because this is one of the biggest keys to success, and it comes in the form of innovation, which we'll cover later on in a future video. And secondly, in terms of business strategies, I'd like you to consider and think about and know the road ahead. Find out what is coming, because if you don't, you're likely to be working on the solutions to fix the problems right now, only to find that they don't work for where things are moving to. So make sure you know and keep up to date with where your industry, market and competitors are going, because it's only then that you can determine your own strategies. There's 4 key steps to change. The first one is awareness, and that means by assessing and identifying the issues and the areas of your business that need to be improved upon. Secondly, there's the understanding, knowing the habits that are keeping you where you are, know what needs to change and why it needs to change. Number 3 is disassociate. Now that means to stop doing those things that are holding you back and eliminate them from your business effectively and quickly. It's a fact that one of the main reasons for business failures is that of being too slow in making the necessary changes to survive or to grow. And number 4 is declaration. That's your intent to do those things that will give you what you do want and not what you don't want. You may recall in lesson 1 I mentioned that what applies to most businesses is this. When those working in a business have a certain set of skills and attitudes, they tend to keep trying to solve the issues in the same way as they always have done, and that doesn't always get the job done. You may or may not have heard of a man by the name of Viktor Frankl. He was one of the few Holocaust survivors. He saw and experienced some of the greatest atrocities in our history. He saw his family, friends and colleagues taken to the gas chambers, expecting his time to come for a similar end. Now he was powerless to change the situation that surrounded him, so he learnt to change himself, the way in which his mind processed what he was experiencing around him in order to survive and later prosper. He said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that's the purpose of introducing you to 2 of the most important aspects in the journey to business success in editions 1 and 2 of this business tonic, mindset and change. 2 of the greatest pains that we will experience in life are pain of discipline, where we do whatever it takes to achieve our desired goal, which weighs ounces, compared to the pain of regret, where we look back having not done what needed to be done to achieve our goals, which will weigh tons. You'll also remember from lesson 1 last week that I asked you to complete a task to focus your mind on some key aspects of where you find yourself in your business right now, with the intention of making some significant improvements over the weeks ahead. The reason that I asked you to do that was to draw out and to focus on those things in your business that need to change in order to improve the results that you are currently getting. If you'll remember, what I asked you to do last week was to write down and answer some of the questions that I posed. First one was, what is my business like right now? I asked you to be specific, to give you clarity on any issues that need to be addressed, whether that be needing more customers, more revenue, whether you've got staffing issues that needed addressing, or supplier issues, or any others. I wanted you to consider the what and the why. What needed doing and why it needs doing. The second thing I asked you to consider and write down was how it makes you feel, whether you be frustrated, tired, overloaded, worried, fearful, or perhaps you're on top of it and you're feeling okay. Thirdly, what are the habits that you feel have got you there, maybe even holding you back? And I think I asked you to consider, if you didn't know, ask those around you what they would consider. Sometimes we learn more from asking others around us than having all the answers ourselves. And then fourthly, what do you really want? I hope you've written quite a few things down there. Number 5, what are the habits that will get me there? So some of those are likely to be the exact opposite to the habits you've written down that are contributing to your current situation. And what you have written down should act as your, what I would call, work in progress to-do list, providing you with clarity and focus for those things that you'll want to change as we progress over the next few weeks. You'll have the ability to effect the necessary change with a little guidance. So focus and start to lock in those habits that will help to get you what you do want from your business. As I mentioned earlier in this video, there's a fabulous short story that explains how to master change and how to make it work to your advantage. It actually features 4 mice and their experiences as they adapt to change. It's a thoroughly enjoyable read, so for anyone interested, I put a link below this video which will take you straight to where you can get it. Just before I close, I'd like to leave you with these last thoughts. We all have a brilliant brain. We just need the right education to feed it. We should learn all that we can because we are affected by what we know. If things aren't working out the way that we want them to, find the information to make a change and make a difference for the better. Now don't be lazy in finding and learning a better way. It was Einstein again that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result each time. So I'd ask that you avoid doing that. Okay, that's it for this week's Business Tonic. I look forward to sending you week 3 next week, when we'll be looking at some of the components within your business. But in the meantime, as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me. This is Carl Kilvington. Talk to you again soon. All the best. Bye bye.